How's it going, everybody? We're finally here. It's been a minute, been a little busy, but welcome to part two of my top 10 Bruce Willis movies. I'm Orlando Ruiz Jr. So, picking up exactly where we left off. Number 5, The Sixth Sense from 1999, written and directed by M. Night Shyamalan. When this film came out, I think a lot of people were surprised because the trailers marketed this film as a straight up supernatural horror film. And then you get to the end of this film and you realize you had the wool pull over your eyes because this movie's a drama and a very effective drama. I love the ghost scenes. They're very effective. The sound design in this movie is great. I love the use of the color red as well as sort of foggy, cold breath that you see whenever there's a ghost that's about to appear. I don't know if that's something that Shyamalan is sort of paying homage to the Exorcist because that's something that happens in that film. Maybe not. I don't know. But if it is, it's pretty cool. And as Dr. Malcolm Crowe, trying to help out this young boy who sees dead people, character of Cole Sears, Bruce Willis is excellent. You can tell that he's definitely sensed his young co-star's talent because he steps up his game, much like he does in 12 Monkeys, shows you that he's more than just a mere action hero. And of course, enough can't be said about the very young, at the time, Haley Joel Osment, who is incredible, years ahead of his time in terms of acting skill, in terms of how young he was at that age. And Toni Collette playing the mother is also excellent. I'm surprised she didn't get an Oscar statue because much like in anything else that I've seen her in, she's incredible. She's never not incredible. So, yeah, Toni Collette, great. I love the scene with her in the car with her and her son towards the end where she's talking about something called the Bumblebee Pendant, and when her son explains to her why that's being moved around and she finally starts to believe what he's saying to her and the realization that comes over her face and she just starts crying in the car. It's one of my favorite pieces of acting in the entire film. And yeah, this movie just, it works to this day. It's got that twist that people back then were enjoying to the point where everyone was keeping the secret for the most part. No one was really spoiling this big twist at the end, which even though the internet was around at the time, it was very, quite, and amazing, considering the fact that people like to just be jerks and troll, one another. But yeah, for the most part, everyone was respectful of the theater going experience regarding this film. And this movie was a cultural phenomenon when it came out. And yeah, The Sixth Sense, definitely a 90s classic and a movie that is much more than a mere scary movie because of just the level of craftsmanship that went into the writing, the acting, the directing, and of course, a lot of the dramatic scenes are heavy hitting. So, one of Bruce's best films, in my opinion. That's my number 5. Number 4, The Fifth Element from the summer of 97, big, fun summer sci-fi action comedy. Bruce Willis as Corbin Dallas, who has to save the world from annihilation because of evil forces. This big ball of fire is about to burn everything up, and you need someone called the Supreme Being, who was played by Mila Jovovich, who had to learn a completely fake language for the film that was made up by the writer-director Luc Besson. I really enjoy the music score in this film by Eric Sierra, who also did the music score for GoldenEye. Very unconventional type of action movie score, but works for the otherworldly feeling of the film. The special effects in this film are great, especially for the 90s, late 90s. Still hold up in many scenes. You got Chris Tucker being hilarious as the supporting comedic, sidekick. And of course, Gary Oldman as the villain Zorg is a lot of fun. He's always a chameleon whenever he plays these crazy villains. They give him these funky outfits, these crazy hair and southern accent. It's a lot of fun to watch. And Ian Holm is really good too. May he rest in peace. Always loved him in Alien and Lord of the Rings, and he's really enjoyable to watch here as well. He has some nice comedic moments as well. And oh crap, I forgot. Rest in peace. There's a brief scene with Luke Perry in a very short role. And yeah, three so far, three deceased actors. Yeah, Tiny Zeus Lister plays the president of the Federation, I guess. Yeah, but yeah, having said all that, so much fun to revisit. It's one of my favorite 90s sci-fi action films, and Bruce Willis as Corbin Dallas is a very fun character, and I love his interactions with pretty much everyone in the film because you can tell Bruce Willis is having a ball saving the world, and it's a lot of fun just going along for the ride every single time. This has a lot of rewatchability, and yeah, just an amazing summer action film from the 90s. Number 3, Die Hard with a Vengeance from 1995, one of the best action films of the 90s. The action is incredible, the villain is great. You have Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson tearing up New York City, trying to stop all these bombs from going off. Yeah, the plot is somewhat derivative of a great action film that came out the year before, Speed, but doesn't hurt the film because it has plenty of great original moments going on all throughout. There's a great sort of subplot in the film that is a surprise, but I'm not going to spoil it for anybody in case they haven't seen it. And just the idea of John McClane sort of having not a building, not an airport, but New York City as his playground. It's a lot of fun. It makes for great entertainment. The music score here by Michael Kamen is definitely pretty much lifted from the first two films, but makes it feel like a Die Hard film. And then you get to the fourth and fifth one where the music score isn't, it's just not there. You know, it doesn't, this really gives it that Die Hard feeling. Everything down to having the director of the first film, the composer of the first film and second, and of course Bruce Willis back in John McClane mode. It's perfect. This is just such a great Die Hard movie that holds up as a standout action film of the 90s. So yeah, that is my number 3. Number 2, Unbreakable. It's a great film. The year 2000 was sort of when comic book movies was just starting to come back because of, you know, the downfall of the Batman movies with the fourth film that came out in 97. But, you know, Blade started to pick things up back in 98, and then you come to 2000, X-Men comes out, then you get this. So yeah, this was definitely the beginning of the upswing for, you know, the superhero genre. And Bruce Willis was excellent in this film, not to mention Samuel L. Jackson. Once again, these two pairing up as a dynamic duo. One, well, don't want to give away what one is and what the other one is, but yeah, this is, for those that haven't seen this film, this is sort of a unconventional take on superhero myths and legends and a modern twist. So, or has a modern twist, I should say. And you know, just the writing, the way the film is crafted to sort of take you down a certain road that you might not expect where it's going. It's one of the most pleasant experiences I've ever had in a theater, not knowing what's going to happen. And for those that haven't seen this film, this is definitely one of the best treats that the early 2000s brought us in terms of cinema. Number 1, that's right. We all knew what it was going to be. What else is it going to be? Come on. So yeah, Die Hard 1988, big summer action movie of that year. This is a movie that I have to go back to every year and revisit, not just because I love it so much, but because it's become a staple of the Christmas season in my house. And I'm sure in a lot of households, there is that great debate. Is it a Christmas movie? Is it not a Christmas movie? As far as I'm concerned, yes, Christmas movie all the way. It's one of my favorite action Christmas movies, and the villain, Alan Rickman, maybe the best action movie villain ever, in my humble opinion. John McClane, one of the greatest action movie characters of all time. This has a premise that was sort of, by the time the 90s was over, this premise was so like been there, done that, because we got so many movies after this that wanted to be Die Hard. And a lot of them were good in and of themselves because a lot of them just took this premise and sort of ran with it in another setting. You know, after this we had like Die Hard on a battleship with Under Siege, Passenger 57 in 92, Die Hard on a plane, Cliffhanger, Die Hard on a mountain, you know, so on and so forth. You know, you got Under Siege 2, Die Hard on a train. And so yeah, the Die Hard formula was being milked by Hollywood throughout the rest of the 90s. And you know, it's something that action movie fans were sort of coming to expect every year. You know, when's the next Die Hard-esque movie coming out? But the best Die Hard movies were usually Die Hard and Die Hard with a vengeance, in my humble opinion. And the first Die Hard movie is an 80s classic, and it's an action movie classic, period. It has action scenes that to this day still hold up because of the perfect direction by John McTiernan. For an 80s action film, this has aged beautifully, like fine wine. And the editing is just, just fast paced, doesn't let up. Yeah, there are moments in the film that give you moments to breathe, moments to sort of take things in. But for the most part, this is a nonstop action roller coaster thrill ride that I have tons of fun revisiting with my family every year, come every December. And then just sometimes, just in the middle of, June or July or whenever, because this is one of those movies that is just one of the most rewatchable action films. Just so many great little hilarious comedic moments in between because Bruce has a natural ability to be funny at times. The quirkiness, the smirky, attitude, it's all there. It was all there from the beginning. And this was the role that defined what he was going to be for the next decade. Just this funny action movie hero that was relatable. He wasn't the Schwarzenegger hero that we were getting used to, or the Rambo type of hero. He was actually a guy that most guys in the audience could relate to because he wasn't this huge beefcake type dude. So yeah, Die Hard is definitely one of the all-time great action movies, one of the greatest action movies of all time, and movie that I love and cherish. And so yes, that is my number one. So thank you very much for hanging out with me for a little bit and taking the time to listen to me ramble on about these old Bruce Willis classics. Appreciate you watching, and please look out for the next classic movie review. I have many more coming pretty soon, always looking at my list, thinking which one should I talk about next, and I have so many lined up that I want to get to. So thank you very much. Look out for the next one. Please like, subscribe if you're new. Comment. I hardly ever see any comments, so I would love to see some here and there. Don't be afraid. Don't be shy. You want to talk some shit? Go ahead. I expect it. I'm sort of new to this whole thing, so still sort of rough around the edges and start trying to refine, my style and refine these somewhat here and there with a little bit of editing, a little bit of tweaking, not too much because for the most part, trying to do these as sort of a one take kind of deal, but trying to edit these slightly so that they're not super, super long for everybody. But once again, thank you, and everyone take care, and God bless.